Hey guys, I'm back for another gameplay. Playing a match this time against Jorbe, Jorbe, with, as I'm sure you can tell by the name of the video, Yisan the Wanderer Bard, against Meren of Clan Toth. Meren is my dual commander, general of choice. She's a very good stacks commander and plays a lot of sacrifice effects and gets a lot of value out of the graveyard. Yisan, I'm sure you've seen before. I have an entirely capable hand, Forest Utopia Sprawl into Nykthos, return to Yisan. I also have Mana Vault into Cultivate for additional ramping, and Green Sun Zenith has a failsafe. Definitely a capable hand against Meren, and I'm definitely going to Utopia Sprawl, choosing green, get my mana online. Skull Clamp off the top. We both kept our 7s. Skull Clamp's a very good card in Meren. Thankfully, he didn't have a dual land because it telegraphs that Bloodghast isn't coming on turn 2, which is usually very good with Skull Clamp, and I can quickly lose the game to that. But Skull Clamp's still a very good card in Meren. It wasn't Soul Ring, though, so I feel much better. I'm going to just run out Yisan here. There's thought to using Cultivate, but I want to outpace Meren faster, and Yisan is the way to do that, because I get one card out of my deck every turn, and he only gets a card out of his graveyard every turn. So theoretically, as the game goes on, right now he'll have access to Meren getting one of 8 cards or 9 cards by his next turn if Meren comes down, or by the time she comes down on turn 4, be 9, 10, 11 cards that he's seen over the course of the game, assuming no tutors, that Meren could get. Yisan has a lot more access to different cards, so Yisan's going to be a better value engine than Meren in a vacuum. So run Yisan out. Forest into Mana Crypt. Oh god. And thankfully his only play is Meren on turn 2. He doesn't have something broken that Mana Crypt leads into, like a Thran Dynamo or something. So Meren in play. Pick up the Woodland Bellower. I really have no choice here. I'm going to Green Sun Zenith for removal. I really don't want him to untap with Mana Crypt. It's too much mana for the Meren deck to have access to when he gets good value from his commander. I don't want him having value and mana, so he resolved value. I'm mono green. I don't have a lot of ways to deal with value, but I can deal with his mana sources. So I'm going to use Mana Crypt as a colorless ritual and fire off the Zenith for 3 here. Picking out, can you pick what it is? Viridian Corruptor. And I choose this over Reclamation Sage for another reason. Corruptor kills Mana Crypt, same as Sage does. But Corruptor kills specifically Artifact, and I'd rather Yisan be able to get Reclamation Sage if I need to kill an enchantment like Sylvan Library or Survival of the Fittest when I Yisan for 3. And Corruptor is more narrow, and I want to use the narrow effect when I have access to it. Also, if he attacks with Meren into Corruptor, I can chump block Meren, but shrink her down to a 1/2, and then I can just ignore attacks from Meren, or she might never attack again because Yisan can block Meren. So it's a good way to disincentivize Meren from attacking me by having an infect creature that can shrink his commander. So I'm going to get the Corruptor, kill his thing, and play Wirewood Symbiote, which also threatens to bounce the Corruptor back to my hand as it's an elf, and then use the Symbiote, and then replay it to kill the Skull Clamp on the following turn if I need be. No attacks. Definitely not going to trade off my Yisan for no value. And Fleshbag Marauder. Alright, so that's pretty good against me. I have 1 card in my deck that's going to keep this thing from just utterly winning the game against me. I give some thought to bouncing Corruptor with Symbiote, but I decided that I'd rather have the Corruptor in play to jump block Meren and shrink her, rather than bounce it to my hand and replay it to use Skull Clamp, because honestly, right now, I'm not planning to spend my mana next turn on Corruptor, I'm planning to spend it on Yisan. So I just let my Symbiote go. And sorry, I let the Corruptor go here. I think Symbiote has more value in the long term, because if I can get ahead of him in mana, where I've kneecapped him by destroying the Mana Crypt, I should be able to resolve Bellower and win with Azuri. So Symbiote is actually more mana. And it's possible that I should have kept the Corruptor, but this is also an untap for Yisan if I get some good. And he doesn't make attacks anymore, so bounce that to his hand. He's at a single experience. I pick up a Forest, which was actually really needed there. We're chatting on the side. I can show that at the end. And I'm just going to ship it back. Let me pull up the chat. Oh, he comments on my 7th edition lands, and I like his art as well, but come on, man. White border. White border is where it's at. Fleshbag Marauder. Alright, so just more value. I'm going to use on for 1 in response, decide if I want to get rid of the symbiote or another 1-drop. But because I have Utopia Sprawl, the clear mana dork of choice is Arbor Elf because it produces 2, whereas the rest produce 1. He's out of mana, so there's no kill spells coming, so Sylvan Safekeeper is not needed. Quirion Ranger is a possibility, but it's effectively doing the same as Symbiote, and I'd rather just get more mana. So I'm going to go for the Arbor Elf and let the Symbiote go, and he doesn't attack again. Plays a Myriad Landscape. Generally, it's a pretty good card, but I don't think it's as good as in 2-color decks. And he's up to 2 experience. So I produce a bunch of mana, and I believe I cultivate this turn. Yeah, so I cultivate. Arbor Elf gives me the ability to cultivate and use Yisan, which was my real goal, to get some card advantage going. Get some lands into play, and ship it back. And I fully expect him to run the Fleshbag. It gets him a 3rd experience. It's just good value here. Once Fleshbag out into play, in response I activate Yisan, and I think some of you will know what I'm getting. Can you guess off looking at the deck? It's right there on top. Tajuru Preserver. Spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. That's a nice Fleshbag you have. Too bad it's not getting you value beyond experience counters ticking up, which is not nothing. I will give it that. And he still doesn't attack with Meren, even when I've tapped out, which surprises me, because I could be down to 29 at this point with 9 Commander. Because there's no way I block at any of these attacks. And I don't think it's correct that he keeps leaving Meren back. She's not doing the job of blocking as she could be attacking. He knows I'm never going to attack with Yisan. This is a mana dork. Not really getting any dangerous attacker at 2 in mono green that Meren has to block. He'd be getting more value in by attacking with Meren here. I don't think I untap Mana Vault this entire game. It was basically a colorless Dark Ritual. So I pick up another land. Didn't really need it there because I cultivated last turn, but it's not unwelcome. I think for a while I float some mana and run Azuri out. I have Yisan for 3 right now, and that's going to be my plan. But Azuri adds to Devotion, and it gives me the ability to protect my Tajuru Preserver if he has any kill spell. That's why I really wanted to get it to Azuri down before he untapped with more black mana. And I run out the Woodland Bellower here, and he thinks, we're talking about Preserver, and I go for my Sylvan Safekeeper, just as a secondary piece of insurance against removal on the Preserver, or on removal against Azuri, because he doesn't protect himself. And I have more than enough lands at this point. I'm not worried about throwing away 1 or 2. Goes with Bayou, and 6-drop Thief of Blood removes all counters. Well, that's pretty good against Yisan, especially if you can start cycling it around. Removes all counters, so I decide to use Yisan in response here, and just increase my mana advantage. And I'm going to go for the Elvish Archdruid. Pump my team a little bit, grow everything, and put Yisan back to 0 counters, which is actually pretty nice because I lost Wirewood Symbiote and passed both Quirion Ranger and Scrib Ranger, which are my ways to untap Yisan. So it's nice that he's resetting me back so I can be able to grab one of them out of the deck. So reset back down to 0. He gets a 4/4. So I paid 3 mana to get the Elvish Archdruid and pump my team. He recurs Fleshbag just to get a 5th counter, and he sacrifices Fleshbag, and I don't agree with this. I think he should have sacrificed Thief of Blood to be able to return it to his hand and play it again next turn, potentially, but it might be that he has a bigger 5-drop coming in. I pick up a relatively useless land, but it does regenerate Azuri or Yisan, because Azuri can't regenerate Yisan, so I decided to go with that one instead of the basic forest. There's really no lost value by playing Yavimaya Hollow instead. I'm going to produce some mana and Yisan for 1, get Quirion Ranger, and this is the real power of this deck. Untap Yisan with Quirion Ranger, make 12 green mana, pay 3, Yisan again, get Scrib Ranger, untap Yisan, go up to 3, Yisan, down to 6 mana. I'm going to get that Fierce Empath sitting right there, looking nice and pretty at me. Use Fierce Empath to drop one of my 6 drops. I gave thought to Terastodon, but really there's a better option in this deck. Regal Force. At this board state, I'm most afraid of something like Damnation, and Regal Force just means I don't care about Damnation. I'd be so far ahead in cards it doesn't matter to me. And I'm playing to that out instead of anything else. So I'm going to go with Regal Force here. Yavimaya Hollow doesn't beat Damnation, so there's no sense in leaving it untapped. I'd rather have green mana, especially for potentially draw off Regal Force. I pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards. What a hand. Man, alright, so Back to Nature is useless. All this land is useless because I've already played a land this turn. I do get Concordant Crossroads and Boreal Druid, which sort of changes one of my two of my green mana into one of my colorless. So, I'm going to tap some mana. Don't forget I still have Archdruid untapped. So I go with Concordant Crossroads first, give my field haste, which is pretty good at resolving a 5/5. New addition to the deck, by the way. I think this is the first time I resolved it in video for you guys. Go with the Boreal Druid. So Boreal Druid pays for itself. It transmutes that 1 green into a colorless. Concordant Crossroads costs a green, but Boreal Druid adds that green back in for Elvish Archdruid. So I'm still mana neutral for what I did so far. I check my mana count. I'm at 9. I give some thought to what I can do. I think Duplicate's the best play here. My goal is to get rid of Meren, I think is my play here. So I'm going to duplicate Meren out of play. Make him have to spend his entire next turn doing it, and at that point it doesn't matter. If he spends his whole turn doing it, I'm going to win the game. And I resolve Winter Orb right after that. So there's no way he's doing anything of note. He needs Mana Crypt to Toxic Deluge on his next turn. Luckily I have that in hand. Or Mana Crypt or Sol Ring, land Sol Ring, to be able to cast Toxic Deluge. So I feel very confident now. He does have a 4/4 in play, so I'm going to get him with my Bellower and my Regal Force. Crash in, and he said, I think that's going to do it. And I think it will as well. I pitch some Forests, and my opponent draws and concedes. There's the concession. Definitely some cool stuff about this game. I had the option to put a stop on his draw step and use Quirion Ranger to untap Elvish Archdruid and Scrib Ranger to untap Yisan and get a 4. But I didn't feel like that 4 was going to be able to do anything for me. I definitely would have gotten a 4-drop out of my deck, but I didn't want to do that in draw step in case he had some Wrath effect. I would like to be able to untap Elvish Archdruid and tap it, and then use Azuri to regenerate almost all of my creatures. All of my elves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5. Regenerate 5 of my elves, including mana sources. So it's definitely not worth doing in draw step. Conversely, I could use Elvish Archdruid or both of them to untap Archdruid, Yisan, use Yisan to get Sabertooth to bounce, Yisan, probably Safekeeper, regenerate a bunch and bounce Azuri. I think my mana's close right there, but I'm not going to bother counting it out. So Yisan gets to 4 there, and then on my turn, with Concordant Crossroads in play, there's really nothing that he's going to be able to do to stop me from comboing, I believe. Because I have haste, I get Temur Sabertooth, Archdruid taps for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the combo takes 5 to do with Archdruid, because I have to tap Archdruid for 6, 2 to bounce, 3 to replay, and then tap for 6. So it nets 1 every cycle. So I had combo on my turn into Azuri Overrun. I have Green Sun, so there was no way he's coming back from that if he can't remove my board. And Winter Orb just puts the nail in the coffin. I hope you enjoyed this game. I'll be uploading the next one, and I tried my very best to keep this as quick as possible. I'll be uploading the next one in just maybe half an hour to an hour. So keep your eyes peeled for that, Game 2. Definitely a interesting gameplay, but this is a strength that Yisan can do, and it's all because of the Tajiru Preserver getting the Flesh Bag Marauder Edict off the table and letting me essentially ignore whatever his deck's going to do. And while Thief of Blood is good, I do not think it's the best card against a Yisan deck. All it does is reset, and honestly, the low end of my curve is just as dangerous as the high end of my curve, things like Regal Force, Terastodon. Um, you're not really getting any value by putting me back down to 0, because I still have good things at 1, 2, and 3. I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and favorite. Share with your friends who like MTG and Commander overall. Hope to see you in the next one.